creation of a party, put it into a blockchain, and then like come up with a system. Like, how are we coming up with our candidate? Like, we are a hyper interactive platform, right? We're hip, hyper interactive platforms. Like, this is not you vote once every 2 years. Like,
No,
this is like you are a citizen with your hands on many of the levers.
I like where your head's at. This is what I would like to see too. What I would call, I think the more comfortable term to move the system in that direction would be called a dynamic democracy. So we have a republic, a democratic republic right now. A democratic republic dictates that we elect representatives to stand for us, and our elections are supposed to be democratic, but our representation is what makes it a republic. So I would say yes, let's keep the republic system. Let's keep that strong, but the way that we vote people in, the way that we communicate them with those representatives can change drastically. Our representatives nowadays can just ask their constituents online and say, hey guys, how do you want me to vote? And they can say, I want you to vote this way, like on almost anything of importance.
It's very hard for us to ask them. Like, we can't go in the New York State poll and tell a politician to vote for this or that, right? With a certain level of support, you are a representative, but we can supersede you at any time online. Like, we
not
have nothing
supersede. No, not supersede. You just inform them. You can still keep the law without changing the law too much.
I'd like to have an honest Congress where we were a democracy, but the Congress was the mechanism that protected us from ourselves, and that's it. Like, their only job was to stop the mob, right? Like, they are the executors. We tell them what our wishes are, and they're very, very bright people that we elect to get shit done in a civilization rather than a traditional business.
You don't even want mobs to form.
Right. Well,
angry mobs.
Fine. Having a great leadership would help. Having more white people. But we need a whole party.
Well, more importantly, the job of Congress is to just do what the people ask.
Would you run if a third party appeared and had fucking 300, 400?
That was the idea that our representatives should just defend us from going over a cliff or being attacked.
I don't mean that. I just mean but on some level,
we as the citizens of this country have the ability to form the nation that we want to see fit. That's every generation's job, actually. Every generation, if you call yourself a citizen, an active citizen, and your job as a citizen, what your duty is you can talk about voting, you can talk about all these mechanisms that you can do as a citizen, but your job as a citizen is to form the country a more perfect union, as Abraham Lincoln said. We are all in the pursuit of forming a more perfect union.
It's kind of a crazy phrase, right? A more perfect union must be a film that probably isn't as good as its name.
Probably. But Obama had his race speech in which he discussed this. We call it the More Perfect Union speech. And a more perfect union is the goal. It's your duty as an active citizen to help assist in the creation of a more perfect union.
You don't think that takes a visionary reactionary, like a visionary radical? You don't like to really do it. Like, where we really need to be is to re-become a revolutionary people. Like, to say, everyone in this world, we're not going to come and take over your country, but listen,
here's the problem with being, first of all,
look at us from history.
Being reactionary means...
Not reactionary, radical, like, probably radical.
Well, even then just being radical, being a revolutionary of these sorts. There's not a lot of historical record that props up the theory that revolutions really work well.
They don't yet.
Like in terms of violent, quick, big, crazy changes like that. Like what is really most effective at changing the fabric or the structure of a society is forming organizations of people around a series of principles and working on it for a long period of time. You got to keep that fire lit. You got to keep working on it. You got to rewrite laws. You got to change policies. You got to change codes. You got to change
the system.
Practices. Yes,
never gonna happen. Everyone gets fucking touched and corrupted. Like you have to do it outside. You need an NGO. You need an independent human venture. Like you can't be coming up with a United.
I'm not saying you have to do it within the system. You can still push it from outside the system, but it takes. All great successes like this that have ever done anything, it's a sustained effort. You gotta show that you're willing to walk the long walk. You can't say that you're gonna just fight the good fight.
No, until I die. And I think.
No, but I'm saying the idea of the revolutionary thing or the radical thing is all about this. Like, I'm gonna uppercut them to the moon, baby. One big swoop.
No.
No, I'm saying
not me.
to do this to all of a society, to all the problems.
No, you just
That's
have
not
to
how you
build-
fix things. You got to fix things by like really wearing them down. You got to like.
What about building a shining city that like all of a sudden everyone becomes
It's a
addicted
long
to?
dance, man.
What about building a spectacular example that causes people to realize it's realistic and achievable?
Of course, that's great.
We
I
don't.
love
We
that idea, yeah.
can't even do that. We have no demonstration. Like, there's no great society. There's nowhere I would take my
There are people who are
kids
interested in
and
this,
threshold that
but
much
they're not
better.
going fast enough.
They're everywhere. Well, they're everywhere.
Yeah, there's- I'm
we
saying
need an
there's people who are
international party. Period.
Hey, and a lot of these
Right?
ideas that you have, you're having for the. You could be the first person having these ideas.
Not a
You're
lot.
thinking that all these other people
Maybe
are doing
one.
things. No, I'm saying there is a bias, which is I forget the fucking name of it, but there is a certain bias which says that when we come up with a good idea, we often do nothing with it. Especially intelligent, creative people, they come up with a good, creative, intelligent idea. They do nothing with it because they think, well, if I thought of it, that means someone else who's just as smart as me or smarter than me must have already come up with this idea, which means I'm already too far behind, which means someone's already going to do it, and then that thing just never gets done because anyone who comes up with an idea or something similar to that idea, they just all think that.
It's a horrible
Like-
thing to think, though. Like that all
Horrible.
ideas have been had.
Well, not that all
Even
ideas
if
have
they
been
have,
had, but
most
just
of
the
them probably
idea
died
that
inside someone's
if I
mind.
really want to succeed with this idea, that I'm already too far behind. Someone else is already ahead of me in this. So what's the point of me even?
I feel like I'm ahead. Like, I think I have
Where
advantages in this.
often
though.
it just takes one person to just get the ball rolling. Like you want a thing to be like you have an idea about big glass spheres and people live in it. Like maybe it just takes one little nudge to just share that idea on a certain platform or
Science
something.
fiction and giving, like in Enlightening Rod, it takes one story. It doesn't matter the series of steps in the Choose Your Own Adventure. Just one of them that's super fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Like the story is about what happens if you have this international party? What happens in the world?
Well,
that is really
also
the story.
too, storytelling is the other part. With
Which I don't want to do
storytelling,
myself. I don't
you
want to do
got-
it myself.
well,
I want to
yeah,
be me
so-
and tell my part and play my character and fight to shape that world, but not to have control over it. To be a
but
participant.
with
in the narrative.
storytelling, just like with all communication, there's style and there's substance. So you've got mounds and mounds of substance that you come up with all these ideas. The style of how that's produced is a whole other art form in and of itself. If you want to actually write shit, you gotta get your style together, which is like a whole other thing of like, because there are certain people who are really interesting stylistic writers that you could read anything that they write. It doesn't matter what the fuck it's about. But you just read that shit and you're just like, God damn, I don't know how you're doing this, man. But like, this person's just like able to write some shit that like draws you in and makes you interested in what's gonna happen next.
A lot of times they're doing that. Like they did go from crazy work like I sound like to physically thinking, oh my god, it's about how I say. Like you have to actually develop a style. You don't just naturally.
Of course, yeah, right.
Creative
That
exploration
thing's
sounds
true, yeah.
insane. A great presentation, with some editing doesn't have to.
No, I think a style should be formed only around the substance, right? So you got a substance. Like if you're doing sci-fi, there's a style that would best suit that, right? If you're doing, noir shit or like detective novels and shit like that, there's a style that best fits that. And some contrast is interesting and stuff, but really, whatever the style is should be suited to the substance.
I mean,
it's just like people, like you got your substance, your you, and then your style is how you dress yourself.
I have to accept that I cannot do my work anonymously in virtual reality. Like, there's no. I may be the last generation where somebody couldn't create something phenomenal anomalously. Like, like I could not succeed with democracy anonymously. Like, it's not possible. So I can't benefit from the anonymity provided inside of democracy. Like, I really don't want to know who the fuck you are inside of a political simulation. I want you to be a being.
Anonymity is
citizen.
a real hard pill to swallow, and it's not really the right word that you really think of at the moment. Anonymity. I think of pseudonymity. Pseudonymity is much more important. Pseudonymity is great. Pseudonymity,
I can do that.
Pseudonymity means you just take on a pseudonym. You put on a mask. It means you still have an identity. Anonymous means you have no identity. So having no identity is a fucking frightening thing. It's like having no rules. It's like having nothing. And shit gets nuts when things are really, truly anonymous. Like, people act fucking weird. And anyone.
What is it? What is it? Anonymity and pseudonymity?
Yeah.
Pseudonymity? That's such a weird word.
Yeah.
Pseudonymity.
Yeah, so pseudonymous. Pseudonymous. That means that, you just have another name. So it's like avatars and shit. That's all. You're not really anonymous when you have an avatar. You're pseudonymous. That means that you've put on a map. Ground and how it's a fucking mess. Well, that's what it is. It's a fucking mess. Like, no, it's not a mess anymore. But they could just say it's a fucking mess. They have just overspent again. They're trying to expand the government again. They're doing bad things. You don't want them around. Let's get rid of them. Then they get people to vote for a Republican and tax cuts for the wealthy and all this shit. And then they make a bigger mess. And then the Democrats got to come in, clean up the mess, and try to get some decent ideas. They've just been leaning on them in this way for a long time. And this part of the problem is, yeah, exactly this. That it takes a while for programs to be implemented, for people to be staffed up, for these things to be well regulated, for change to actually take effect. Like, you can have the revolutionary idea all you want to, but like, you've got to understand how systems work, and then you got to figure out how to change those systems incrementally and logically so that the change sticks and stays for a long time. Like, that's engineering shit that you got to know the ins and outs of the machine that you're working with. And the machine of the government is very big and complicated. And if you want to make a revolutionary shift, you gotta know how to work those fucking gears, man. You gotta know every little cog, every little thing and how it works. And then if you want to roll in with something interesting, you just roll through it. And that could be great, but you gotta really know how the system works. That's why a candidate like Bernie Sanders is fascinating, because he knows the ins and outs of the system.
But he's not
got a revolutionary, like a radical idea, which is radical only in the sense of DC politics. It's not radical in the sense of what American people have been wanting for a long time.
Not super detailed, not an interactive platform, and not likely to eliminate the science friction. Like, he has a radical kind of viewpoint, but he doesn't have a detailed plan. He doesn't have a way to make it.
Bernie Sanders? He's got tons of people.
Okay, does he really have an interactive platform? Have you been to his website? And tell me, jump 10 years into the future with technology that doesn't even need to be new.
If you have an idea and you want to talk to the Bernie Sanders campaign, you can tweet at them, you can text them.
But can you take a really interesting poll? Can you take a choose your own adventure through a series of different political systems?
You can literally just take an adventure too. You can just say, I want to volunteer for something and start doing work. You can start making phone calls. You can do all.
Of course, you can deal with people in his campaign or any campaign. I mean, like, is there a platform? Is there a mechanism for interactive platforming? Bernie has never said we haven't.
Like, no, that's what a campaign is.
But they're not usually evolving. Once they're a campaign, they're usually relatively rigid. They're certainly not great at reaching out to the people and saying, "Hey, we're brilliant but ignorant. Like we are a party that depends on your ideas. Like, no one else is really asking. We entirely depend upon us."
Wait, what? They're not asking that? I think a campaign is an interactive platform. Their job is to, spread the message.
Propaganda, not platforming. The platform's already there, isn't it?
Propaganda is a part of the platform, as it is for any communication platform. You're going to have propaganda. That's just called getting your message out. Now, the message is going to take a shape. As you're shaping it, that's called propaganda. So, spread your message. So, your interactive platform of a campaign spreads your message, and then it recruits people to do things. It recruits them and brings them in and then gets feedback from them. What should we be doing out there on the street? Now, the problem is that they have traditionally run in top-down fashions. It is all just dictating what to do. It's not been ground up. The Obama campaign in 2007 was the first national, there was ground-up feedback coming through where people were listening to people in blogs and on state level, on city levels, like, what do you guys need from us? That is not traditionally how campaigns work. And certainly, the last...
Well, that was a new step, right? I mean, but that was definitely a new step, but it wasn't really a multi-dimensional platform. Like, a million people weren't able to interact with his site, and carve it down.
They were able to make their own pages. There was millions of people that had pages on their website
with words that they were what I'm saying? Some kind of a common platform
where they could set up event viewing. They could set up event viewing parties. They could set up door knocking campaigns. They could set up call campaigns. We had call tools where you could log in, and then you could just right from there you could call up your local senator. You could call up whoever. You had all these call campaigns. We had donor funding. We had people to organize their own fundraising campaigns, to handle bake sales, to handle fucking anything that they wanted to do. They could set up their own events. We had a very interactive platform there on the internet where we were asking people to do things, register to vote on there, go out, get people to register to vote, drive people to the polls, drive people to get registered to vote, bring forms out to people.
Those are all important things, but most of those are not what I'm focused on. What I'm focused on is nobody has a sufficient and sufficiently adaptable platform to present to the people realistically. Like, nobody can say, listen, I will take you through the platform where it is right now. I will show you the previous manifestations on the blockchain. I will show you immensely formal but hopefully enjoyable polling. And, like, listen, the fact that we can't predict reality exactly doesn't mean that we shouldn't be engaged in, like, hyper immersive political interactions within literally visionary systems. Like, we are there tomorrow, where a party will come from an interactive platform, and the people, the early adopters, the fans that it's of democracy, I think they'll work together in a private system and simulation to develop concepts way beyond anything we're going to be able to accurately triangulate.
Yeah,
there's only two of us. One more person.
I agree with you.
One
100%.
genius sitting here.
Yeah, the better solutions are coming on the horizon for one, and they're going to come more from
Do you think someone else is doing them?
Right?
Maybe not. The shit that we really need may not already be being done, or we might be in a position sitting in this truck to have more of an impact on interactive platforming than anyone ever in the history of the universe. That could actually happen.
I think that me and my friend have already identified this with Assembly.
I'm glad you're calling me your friend. Thank you.
Another friend.
Me and my other.
Other friend.
My OFF, my other friend forever.
We think that's ability to organize in real space and real time in a new fashion, but it needs a lot of work to it.
But getting the idea together is huge, though, right? Like, having a large, coherent idea that you can present relatively simplistically, like, that is really hard, because an idea is going to be made up of many other ideas. Like, how do you get the formula right?
I think a part of it, part of destroying the parties and making a more interactive platform is just figuring out how traditional campaigns have worked, and figuring out how much of that you can actually just automate. You can automate a lot of this with just better software, good apps. And if you can do more of that, you can build a more interactive platform. Like, figure out not just how traditional platforms or traditional campaigns have worked, like before Obama, but especially post-Obama and 2008 and 2012, most importantly. And then looking at 2016, Hillary fucking shits the bed and hires a bunch of fucking DNC dummies that don't know how the fucking world works. And that's part of the problem. They weren't actually interactive. She wasn't reaching out. She was just speaking at the people, talking at them.
Humanity needs like a hyper interactive platform. Like, we do need a we the people. We need giant ideas brought down to earth. We need it. Like, we need this shit to actually happen, and everything depends on what we choose as our own manifest destiny. Like, correct? Like, we have to decide. Nothing great's going to happen by accident.
Manifest
we have to
destiny
choose
is one of my favorite.
Illuminate beauty and truth.
Terms, though. Manifest
it's
destiny.
Perfect term.
Holy
It's the
shit.
real meaning of. It's an entendre. Like, I love entendres. Like, I have special love in my heart.
It's like you're just saying.
Make shit happen. That's
You're saying that shit's going to happen, so we might as well.
Not me. I'm not saying that. You can't say that sentence in my presence, like, correctly. Like, I don't think that of manifest destiny as that anymore, and it's been quite some time, just by conscious design. Manifest destiny means make destiny. That's what it means. Like, it's a great name for a powerful film.
Okay, because it was originally used as an adjective and a noun, so not a call to action, but as a. You're using it as a call to action. Manifest destiny.
Yeah.
They were saying it as there is a thing called a manifest destiny. The manifest destiny is
perfect.
The fact that we are already going to take over the world or take over the country. So we might as well just do it. Like, that was it's like it's inevitably going to happen, so we're going to do it. Like, that's just like saying that something's inevitable, making that argument, and then saying, so might as well just let me do it anyway. Like, that's fucking nonsense. That's not how an argument works. But I like your version. Yeah, manifest destiny, like, create it. It's a call to action. Okay, they're gonna close the shop. I gotta check out this shit.
That's all it would really take. Like, what would the deplorables do if presented with manifest destiny? Like, the first stories in a series of choose your own adventures, like, that are just fucking incredible. Like, what would a deplorable do if they saw a brilliant choose your own adventure vision of multiple human futures that was obviously becoming rapidly popular in the form of democracy? And like, fuck, like, this is extremely progressive shit, and it's actually happening. They are actually they've taken the term back.
Manifest destiny, I like it.
That's one idea we could change in the minds of deplorables. Like, they think it's one thing, we could quickly flip them to think that it's something else, and just changing one switch inside someone's mind with their cooperation is a huge start. You have a foot inside their mind.
Got like cans and bottles all over the place, man.
Not all over, dude. I cleaned up for you, bro. I clean up for my guests somewhat, some of the time.
All right, man. I gotta get in there.
Which, that's the name right now of our film. It's Manifest Destiny. Yours is different than mine. It gets released online. It's all free. We just create the branch creating mechanism that's necessary in one ingenious seed.
All right, Manifest Destiny. I like it.
All right.
You're taking on another name. Other name is your identity for all intents and purposes. Like, you can blend in your personal identity, your actual, you know,
You're going to.
full thing. You're gonna blend in bits of it, or you can just be someone else entirely. When you take on a pseudonym state, you can just say like, I'm gonna be a fucking asshole today. I'm gonna be a really sweet person. I'm gonna be a woman, or I'm gonna like whatever.
Could you do that?
What do you mean?
I mean, could I do that? You think I'm sociopathic enough to have multiple personalities? Like, to just literally take on...
It's not sociopathic.
Like, it would be kind of acting in a way, right? I mean, it wouldn't really... But what if I could do... What if I was good at it? What if I wanted to make a film about, I'm so the opposite of a Nazi that I fully understand and perceive Nazis, and I could play the scariest character you've ever fucking seen. And no one would believe for 1 second that was ever real, except that they completely believed it while it was on screen. Like, they're like, this dude, oh my God, like Hitler too.
Wow.
What? No, I'm like...
Being a good actor is exactly that. I think people...
Give me a podium and fucking 2 million people gathered for a festival on fucking mescaline. Let me play like I'll play the opposite of a Nazi. Like, let me have the mescaline too.
There's a lot of good writing from Jung. I like from Joseph Campbell, from Cloudly by Strauss, where they talk about the masks that we wear. In fact, one of Joseph Campbell's best books is The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and it's all about he's got one called The Masks of God too, where it's all about this idea of identity. We all wear masks in our everyday lives all the time. We change our masks every day, all the time, and we do the same with other people. We put masks on other people, and we tell them who they are, what they're like. We do this all the time.
Well, why?
Why do we do this? Because that's how we have to relate to it. Because the reality is it's all too much.
This is too much, right? It's too much that we don't know. It's too much.
We don't know.
So we summarize, we pretend, we put masks on, we decorate, we fragilize, but just pretending, right? I mean,
if we know we're doing this to each other all the time, if we know we're doing this to ourselves all the time, then obviously we're doing this to God and to every other invisible deity and creature and all these spirits and stuff. We do this all the time. We do this with animals. We do this with all kinds of things. We put masks on them. And his deep questions then are like, why do we do this? So if we do this to each other, and we know we do this then to God, whatever that is, then what does that tell us? Now that we know that we don't know what's behind the mask of God, but we know all these masks that we have made for God. So by looking at all those masks that we have made over all time and space from all different people, it tells us a lot. Now, what is behind that? Nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. That's not probably nothing. It's just a way of describing the big, awesome, amazing thing that gives us life and lets us go and be and sometimes it's about questions about what reason is it real, all that kind of shit. But
we're not gonna know, right?
God is just the big idea, the big thing that has to do with life, which has to do with the balance of all life, and everything. There's something there. So the question is when we see that God thing as a giver, it's an interesting culture that is living well. When we see that God thing as a taker or a destroyer, then it's a civilization that's not living so well. It's trying to fight back, or sometimes it's vice versa.
How many of them are conscious? Do you think Muhammad wrote that shit just more consciously? I'm gonna take these stories and improve them or change people. You think that was a conscious? You think these people are insane that write these stories?
Some of it's insane.
And is there another one? Is there another one coming? Is there room on this planet for some kind of an anti-Bible?
Right now, I mean, they're being written all the time.
What's the present leading Antichrist Bible?
It's very weird to have a character like Shakespeare show up when he's just a dude who just comes out and writes tons of shit that's hugely, massively important. This is a rare thing. But new stories and new mythologies, there's already mythologies around fucking George Washington that we're in the midst of George Washington being glorified and entered into the heaven space. Like you can't think of George Washington as a real dude who could just walk up to along the door and say, "Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you guys." Like you have no idea what his voice would sound like. You can't picture him as a real person. He's fucking George Washington.
Well, that was Jared
He's
Kushner,
like
too,
glowing and floating, and he
not bad.
sounds like James Earl Jones somehow. Like,
But we have no audio. I mean, we have a ton of audio of Trump. Like we don't have Washington, but we have Trump.
But that's what I'm saying. And Washington is just
in the record.
200 years ago. Like, and it's 250 years ago. So 250 years ago, it's not that long of a time to like see how mythology forms around a god-like creature. And I'd say all of our founding fathers are slowly entering a pantheon of mythology.
Love the pantheon.
But how we deal with that, how well we accept that, and how they, because like that's the other thing is like god-like figures as they're becoming gods to a culture, their qualities are very reflective of the people themselves. So, like right now we're seeing how like all of our founding fathers, they're mostly fucking slave owners. Well, not all of them, but almost all of them. Slave owners, right? So now we have to deal with this question of like, were they racist or were they just of the times? If they were one of us now, and then how do we think about that? Do we give them the good benefit of the doubt and we don't talk about that shit that they owned human beings, or do we intensely focus on that and say, no, they owned fucking human beings, they're horrible people, like no, it's never okay. So yeah, we're writing their story, we're writing what kind of mask we all want to put on them. But yeah, there's new like the Bible of today is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, man. That's like the new Bible that's come out. Like that's some shit that like people give a fuck about, and it informed then like code work and shit like that. Like good laws as they came out, new foundations to inform how the internet works, how all this shit works. Like these mythologies are being written all the time. We just don't recognize it when it's happening. Because we don't recognize how far language is going to change and how archaic our current language is going to eventually sound. The way we're speaking right now is ancient people speak to people 1,000 years from now. They're going to say, can you believe people actually spoke like that?
Maybe 3 decades, 4 decades. Well, it takes one generation to grow up in a completely different fucking situation.
But like, yeah, even just 250 years ago, when we think of the way the founding fathers spoke, we imagine that they spoke, ye olde, I go down to ye olde.
Did anybody say this back then? Did anybody, like, when they were drinking and arguing and smoking weed, we could make a new founding father story. We could all put on wigs, right? If we got a pile of Bitcoin gold, right, we could all put on wigs and literally lock ourselves in a barn and work out, like, just replicate and try to come up with our own fucking wig, and it would be brilliant. Like, you don't like give people tests to see how bright they are. You let them mix inside of like a simulation, and you go by people's ratings. Like you have, like, on LinkedIn, you can accredit people for something, right? Like I could give you points for having insight in a number of areas through having conversations with you, therefore elevating your credibility and making you potentially a representative or like a representative executive, like someone who wouldn't ordinarily exert any control, right? Like the people generally operate as a democracy, spending 70% of the money here, 30 here.
So I think a problem with the simulation-heavy system in a democracy is that it doesn't actually affect you in the physical, real world. It doesn't actually affect how you live your life in a real, meaningful way. That takes a while to actually reveal itself. Like when you live in a democracy and the world, like you can make decisions always much faster than they can be executed. That's just the way, it's just the reality of the world, the way we work. Like we don't have instant replicating machines right now. We can just think of things and they can exist.
But we don't?
We don't.
If you can design it in Blender, it can. I mean, we're closer than it sounds with you just saying that.
Right.
Like you can
get much better at this, but we're always going to have that. It takes a while for projects, and the bigger the project, the longer it's going to take. Like if you're talking about redesigning a whole city, it's going to take a fucking while, right?
How long does that really take in VR? If you break it down into a choose your own adventure, if the people can act as Piranha, how does it necessarily take decades, or could it take, like, could a month of people like addicted to a fucking visionary simulation actually produce a fucking extraordinary sculpture?
Designing a city in Google Maps and SketchUp,
cities, everybody has their own.
Then having interplumbing, wired up system with actual bricks being laid and dealing with mistakes that people make and all the shit that goes on. Like, it just takes a while. So my point is that when you run a simulation-heavy system to test how ideas work, like, it'd be good to understand like how power can be distributed in a more dynamic fashion, but it doesn't really do much to measure the fact of feedback from people who have something invested in this, and then are seeing the real results of it.
What if they have real money in it and they
part
see?
Part of the problem is that when you vote for a candidate to do things, it takes a while for those things to happen. So this is where the Republicans have been playing off this game for a long time, where Democrats get voted in, the Democrats work on cleaning up the Republican mess, and then they finally unveil a bunch of their new plans, which are only going to kick in. Like Obamacare is a good example of this. Works on Obamacare, finally starts rolling out, finally starts figuring its shit out, and then as that's happening, all the Republicans do is say, remember when this project was just getting off the...
My brother is not a fan of Arrested Development. Like, it's crazy. I was not even a fan. Like they're illusions. He's fucking great for what he's so typecast. I saw him in Parks and Recreation. I was watching him in the background while writing last night. I like him. I like Job. I like Buster too, but I like
Job's amazing.
I like Job. I like Bender.
I have a theory that Job and George Michael, or George Sr., so the father and Job, if you combine
You
those
told me
two
this and I
people-
don't remember. Like, I'm gonna try to remember before you.
What?
Go ahead.
No.
I don't remember, so it's gonna be a new story, even though I know.
This is a
you
new
told me.
theory. I've not, definitely
Oh, are
not
you sure?
This is not a story. Yeah, this is just my theory that
All right.
that Trump is basically Job and George Sr. combined into one person. He's like a corrupt real estate dude
It's an
who's working
interesting
overseas interests. Like he's surrounded by idiots and dummies. He thinks he's a god. He's a narcissist. Everything's got to be about him. He's constantly evading the law. That's the father, and he's a lot like that. But he's also a lot like Job in that he's so obsessed with showmanship and he's so bad at it.
He's all of them.
He's
He is fucking all
He's
of
not
them.
all of them because
They're all terrible.
Because maybe
Sane.
George Michael and maybe
He's not George
are
Michael,
are Ivanka and Kushner.
I meant the adults,
Whereas-
the last generation. Fucking George Michael and fucking maybe. That's a totally different
Those two are
generation.
Ivanka, but that's Ivanka and Jared Kushner, because
Oh.
Jared Kushner is basically like her cousin. Like you can't imagine them like doing it. It's like they're so awkward and weird.
We should do a commentary. We should sit down and do the entire fucking show and film ourselves as if they're watching us too, and just there's fans of that show that are I think would really be interested in the kind of things that we would talk about in a real flow. If you're not in the mood of killing the flow today, then call in sick and kill
Kellyanne
later.
Conway is Lindsay Bluth. It's just a big fake piece of shit.
I love her. I love all. I really like
Steve
all
Holt
of them a lot.
is Scaramucci, the Mooch. Steve Holt. Who else is there? The mom is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She just lies and lies and lies. That's not.
My friend said that. I'm quite sure that he's joking, but he owns a printing company. You know Rory Allen? You know that name? He ran for an office around here.
Sounds kind of
copy. So he was talking to his wife. He thought he's kind of like a bit of a. Thought about it for 30 minutes, and then he was running. It is theoretically possible. I'm like 99.9 sure that he's joking, but. He has a printing company. It could be really fun. He's got really good politician hair. Yeah, he lost to someone here, but there's local races that Obama could have easily lost too, right? He would have lost against Roy Moore. He won in America because of the whole fucking thing.
Candidates catered to the.
Can't think the bad shit I read about him. I can't really think of Obama as having gone into that job as a puppet. I have to think of him as a good, smart man who got touched by corruption. Not to make him corrupt really, but to have him kind of retract and be super pragmatic and not remotely revolutionary, afraid to follow through on the rhetoric of his election.
Honestly. I think that pragmatic centrist that was interested in keeping the waters calm is who he was the whole time.
Who do you want? Of all your friends right now, who would you choose to be the next president? I'm not kidding. Give me a name. Give me a first name, and I don't even need to violate anyone's privacy. Give me initials. Do you have a friend that you think would be a great president? You'd be much better than me by traditional perception. You seem more balanced and less radical.
Yeah, there are probably some people that are young that are on the outside or understand politics, understand government. A few people that I can think of that at least, but I don't know if they're ready for it. If they would actually be good at it.
What if
being ready for the job? This is why the election actually works. The election and campaigning season is really important because it makes you aware of how ready for the job you need to be. Like, it's a big hurdle to cross. You got to raise a lot. Like, I wish it weren't about raising a lot of money, but you got to raise a shit ton of money. Not only that, you got to build a large constituency. You got to reach out. You got to build a big organization of people to do all your outreach and shit like
Could
that.
you talk?
It's a very serious undertaking to run for president. You got to run basically a company which is going to have thousands of employees.
That could be a phenomenal. That would be a phenomenal documentary.
That
A
is
phenomenal
what campaign documentary though.
No, but how many of them have, like you say, I'm too radical, right? I'm too radical to win. It doesn't mean someone like me is necessarily too radical to run a campaign and build a business.
This is one proven. So
print and publish. And
too radical to win is where, like you were
ideally-
talking before, I was saying Trump didn't change everything, but he did change a lot of things. So the too radical to win question, and the small family operation that he ran a pretty small operation, like unprecedentedly small. No, he was only able to pull this off because he had foreign fucking help. He had moneyed influencers that were basically acting as this de facto campaign.
and have population not
But
voting.
still, your campaign has to be huge. It has to be.
But it can be
You got to have a lot of bases covered. In order to run
grassroots.
a
It can be,
campaign.
right? It could be a grassroots campaign with existing technology. You could build a blockchain for a party and for a campaign that stated like your absolute
you could
platform,
be-
your core values. You could build a constitution into a blockchain.
You can run as a
party.
candidate, and you can get as many supporters as you want that are behind you. But the question is, one, how do you reach those people?
Honestly,
This
this is how you have. This is it.
Yeah, but still, you still have to cut through, and in cutting through, you requires teams of people. It just always will. You're gonna have to, like, if you want to really make a splash and have people pick up what you're putting down, you're gonna have the opportunity to hear you. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of fucking
But
work.
you like work,
it's-
don't you? Like, I like work. Like, you like to do work
Yeah,
that's
but I'm just
meaningful,
saying,
right?
it's-
You would be a.
It's
if
a
you
lot
had
of,
to be.
I'm saying it's a lot of work for a lot of people as well. It's not just another kind of work that you can just sit down and work morning till night as one person.
Right,
just do
tons
it.
of it's volunteer work, right? I mean, if you ran a virtual reality arcade that was spread all over the country, you could probably use that to present visions of your platform and favor your candidate, right?
You can only get volunteer work once you've already got a robust campaign going. You've got to have the mechanism to control your message.
Right,
To
like, okay.
run media to
That's the story, maybe.
fundraise.
What is that thing? Like, what is that mechanism of positive propaganda?
A mechanism of positive propaganda?
Like, where, like,
this is called just
'cause
propaganda.
what is
I mean,
Fox? Like, Fox is telling these fucking shitty stories, right? We would want to be telling
There's nothing about
incredibly.
propaganda that needs to be inherently negative either. Like, that's another. Ready for that? Yeah, propaganda as a term is important. It's just like advertising. It's basically essentially the same thing with some slight tweaks. Advertising is only to be used, not only to be used, but it's primarily used when it's in reference to making money in the capitalist system, where it's corporate advertising. When we think about, even campaign advertising, we don't really call it advertising. We kind of call it like, media influence or campaigning or electioneering or whatever the fuck. But it's all propaganda. Propaganda is the attempt to simply sway people's opinions. That's all it is. So you want to sway people's opinions towards anything. You want to sway them towards your product's better than your competitors. You want to say that my message is the right message, or you should vote for me because you like my message, or whatever the fuck it is. It's all propaganda. Like, so yeah, there's tons of mechanisms out there right now. If you want to learn from what Trump just pulled off, and not even necessarily what he pulled off, but what his cohorts pulled off, where there was Russian influence, where there was Cambridge Analytica influence, where there was, moneyed influence coming from Koch brothers and the Mercer family. Like, these guys all were able to influence the campaign and do it under the radar. Running social media blasts, creating a bunch of fake accounts to drum up their numbers and make it look like stories are more popular, basically bootstrap their popularity. They then also created, in order to do that, they created a bunch of accounts that were framed around this. These bots were all designed around what was called certain psychotropes or archetypes. So you take a certain archetype of a type of voter. You say, I want poor white rural people. Okay, so what do poor white rural people like? Let the bot go out there and see what do poor white rural people like, and it learns what their language is like, what they talk like, what they sound like, what they're angry about, what they're happy about. So you just create a bunch of bots that just do that, and they ginned up the numbers, and they created a lot of influence. Like
But you don't want bots. You want people, right? Like, even with
that's what I'm
artificial
saying.
intelligence technology, if the more volunteers you have who believe in
you
your
don't want
message,
to
the
do
better.
bots are gaming the system. It's a weird, fucked up game that's
And there's no great.
was just used.
there's no great movement. There is no great movement of any fucking kind. This just comes to my mind. Like, with the technology we have, we should see unification of millions of people on the same page, citizen sourcing great solutions for at least one thing or two or three things, like something. There should be great associations, right? When we're in the pull some of your fucking lungs. Like when we're in the patronage, we'll have like that fucking. Oh, I just
Smoking your fucks too.
Like it would be great to run. It would be great to start a party, to write a super basic constant, like
What?
bruise right here,
Oh, bruise.
bad bruise, like limping around like a motherfucker. Oh yeah. Like it's like opening the window even more when it's freezing the fuck outside while we're driving.
Yeah. Do whatever parents tell you not to do. What are you telling me? You can't do that?
Oh, he's pretty bad. I think he pisses his pants still just to like exert control. Like, you can't stop me. Like, you can listen to a lot of shit, but like I'm gonna fucking piss my. I had to smack his ass twice today, and I told him, like, listen, I'm not gonna smack your ass for having an accident. I'm gonna smack your ass if you have an accident and you don't tell me, right? It's fine, whatever. Just tell me, you know, like right when you pee your pants, say, Dad, I had an accident, and I won't smack your ass. I won't even get mad. You just have to tell me, because I figure if he tells me, then he will, like, he'll think about it, right? He'll be like, wait a minute, I just peed my pants a minute ago, you know, like that. I don't want to change and to just make like, oh, you got to change your clothes, you got to take a shower. I'm not going to make the water as warm as you like.
Well, when you're a kid too, there's like a lot of like shame involved with that, like having to admit that you're, you know, partially you get like, yeah, you do get some attention in a weird way, but it's not good attention, huh?
Weed or no weed?
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever said no. I figure you smoke before you get here, right? Or at some point, sometimes. I see, the thing is, nobody knows. I really want to sit down with them and make like some kind of parental Khan Academy, you know, like make an app. Like, listen, parents, before you have these motherfuckers, don't go to a dating site, go to a fucking parent site, answer 1,000 questions, put that shit in a time capsule, guarantee that your child can see it when he's 18. Like, what were you trying to do with me, you know? Put some shit in stone. Let it be known where you were trying to go, because we're more responsible for our kids than ourselves. I was 80% made by the time I was a fucking teen. You know, like when I was 12 and 12.9, I was me. Like the core of me was not entirely, but a huge part of me was built.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, there's a false way that people end up thinking about that often, I think.
It's dangerous.
People think that like people don't change. They think that I was the person I was formed when I was coming of age. We have like this glorification of coming of age time, as though it's something like mystical, and it is in a sort of way. But you know, the problem is that it starts. The negative consequence of that thinking is that it tells people that I can't change. That I haven't changed. Look, I was who I was then. I like what I like then. Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's the weird part. You're right.
I am who I am. Where no, you're not who you are. You can change every single day with every the series of different decisions. In fact, you are constantly changing every day with every little decision you make. That is
unconscious, right? Like they're changing, but it's very slowly. They're not like I need to change. We're like, no, the world is rough. You got to kind of pretend. You know, don't you got to kind of pretend like you're okay every day to get through the day. I'm okay, right? I'm doing the right thing for now.
All the time. Every decision we make, we tell ourselves it's the right decision after the fact. Like every single fucking one, man. Like because I mean, some people, you know, second guess themselves, but you know, that's different than like doing honest analysis. Like we don't do any work to really analyze our like arc of our own story. Like how often do people sit back and be like, where was I a month ago? Where was I 2 months ago? Am I where I want to be? Like people don't do that unless they have like fucking therapists that they go do that with, and they're mostly just talking about their mental happiness or health or whatever, psychological well-being.
You ever said extrospection?
Like there's all these things. Like we have introspection. Do we have? Is that even a fucking?
Oh, we
word?
don't even have enough introspection. But yeah, that's interesting.
Extrospection.
I guess that would just be inspection. I mean, it's funny. Introspection and inspection implies. I guess extrospection would mean
Like the rapist.
out the
The
larger
rapist
thing.
analyze might be good. Therapist analyze. It's the rapist analyze. This is more it's even worse than before.
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot of analysis over our own stories. So the best we got is, how do we feel about where we are and how we got to where we are? We feel okay about it, all right? We're very good at denying, the bad things that we do to get where we are, the mistakes we make. We're just
Great
okay
at it. We're fucking great at it.
Yeah, we're
Like
amazing.
words allow us to get shit twisted and like tell
Oh,
half
shit,
lies and convince our minds.
And tell ourselves like we had no other choice. When we do bad things, we just say, "Well, I had no other choice. I had to, absolutely had to." Like I had to.
Did the
You
best I
understand?
could.
Did the best. Well, did the best
It's
I
like,
could.
are you
It's a
even
little more fair, I suppose.
are you
but
trying to do the best you can? I mean, you're not going to do it. Are you trying to do better? Like,
See,
let's
someone
not
says-
aim for perfection.
Someone says I did the best I could. That at least opens up the conversation to, was it though? Like that's at least starting to say like, was it really the best you could?
I mean, it was already
if it
done.
wasn't,
so-
which most often we're not always doing the best we
we're
can.
almost
That's-
never doing the best. I mean, think,
Right.
like, what's the best we can do?
Right, the best we can do. We know everyone knows what they're capable of, but that's exhausting. The best you can.
To get to the best you, don't you have to cut the distance in half over and over, and you can never actually reach it, right? That one paradox, like you can't actually get to the best you even like.
That's one of my favorite paradoxes, but it's also proven false.
Which one is that?
It's Zeno's paradox,
That
which
is
talks
Zeno.
about the arrow paradox.
What's the bad Zeno word? Xenophobia?
Yeah, but that's no relation.
No, I know. Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, spell the same with the X. Yeah.
I'm gonna get to this point when like I say, oh, take any of my ideas, throw it in a bingo roll or pull it out, and I'll build that business, right? It's not true when I get to 420 ideas. If someone pulls out xenophobia, I gotta come up with like an epic fairy tale based on the combination of Xeno and xenophobia, which would not be impossible, right?
No,
if you dedicated
yeah.
12 months and a bunch of drugs to Xeno's.
I mean, or just one day and a bunch of drugs with the right drugs. I mean, if you're doing the drugs right, should go pretty smooth.
But I like a Sharpie. This is not bad. I do much better with you and talking to people when I have a pen. Most people that talk to me don't have a pen. And this is the opposite of you, right? Like, you write so nobody can read it. I write so a satellite could read it off the page through the window. But they can't steal what's given away. Like, I can give away everything, and I'm afraid to do it, and I would like you to remind me anytime I talk to you that I can give away everything in one book, and it won't hurt me at all. Will I be able to make billions if my ideas are worth billions? No, I won't.
Well, in
Do
fact,
I
that's-
give a fuck?
I'd argue that
Don't want it.
If you're going to write a book, that's the only form of writing that you can pursue. You give away everything. Leave it all in the field. Every single time you write something, right? That would be the only way to pursue it. Otherwise, you're holding back, and the reader's going to know that, and everyone's going to know that, and they're going to be like, why?
But that's crazy. I mean, who's ever done that? Franklin gave away the lightning rod. I don't have a lightning rod, but I get to like 420 ideas with like a dozen of us, throwing in some random funny shit that they thought of on their own. Like,
Start publishing.
but how, like, do I do it? Do I do it? Like, how do you think I should do it? Like, I need someone to help me figure out like a concrete way that I agree with, like,
And I think it's got to come for you.
which
It's
is
got to
realizable in real
Yeah,
life.
that's what I was gonna say. It's got to come from whatever your patterns are, whatever you know you're capable of. Because
I'm capable. We're both
Give me-
capable of immense things that we're not like doing now.
Well,
We have to
okay,
learn.
well, not just about capable of, but comfortable with. More importantly,
I need a little comfort.
But whatever structure or publishing model, whatever it is, you would have to work with whatever your patterns are, not vice versa. Because yeah, you're.
How about this?
You got your ways.
See, what if that one came up? Comfort or we're here for you. Like, we're here for your comfort. Like, comfort is the opposite of stress. Like, we're on Scientologists. What do you think?
On Scientologists.
I want to walk up to them in a movie, like have fake Scientologists. You could definitely be like a leading Scientologist. You could be the guy at the Scientology tent that was just super, right? Like, fucking unbelievably confident. And without further analysis, you probably kind of almost make sense, right? Like,
Right.
you hit the right keywords and like, it's gibber. Like, it's hard for people to process complex thoughts at high speeds when they don't have a lot of context, right? Like, I can get lost listening to a genius talk about something I don't understand. Like, wait a minute, I'm missing so much. Like, you got to stop. I need to ask you some questions to figure out where the fuck.
Dizzying up the girl, is what they call it in persuasive techniques. Dizzy up the girl. Like, it's basically what every single stage magician does to pickpocket you. You know, when you see a stage magician and suddenly he's up on stage and he's got like the dude's watch from the thing, like, well, the way he did that is he picked his watch off of his wrist, like at the beginning of the show when he brought him in. And the way they do that is they just touch you all over the place. They just, hey, nice to meet you, how you doing? Touch you, and then all of a sudden you're like, you don't notice that, whoop, in 1 second they just slip that shit off your wrist. It's the same game they do with ideas and shit. It's just like, over here, shake, dizzy up the girl, you get all shaken, and then all of a sudden, whoop, don't you want to buy my snake oil now? And you're just like, yeah, I do. It sounds all right. It sounds like, yeah, I want all those things you said.